is on an imagination with the Healing Garden. And welcome. I am taking this time to, I have a lot to talk about. And I came in with an idea and a plan. And then I went, okay, I'm going to go eat. I ate. And now I'm like, I got to recenter myself. And I got distracted on Canva because I have a new podcast I'm putting together called Sunshine Imagination Adventures, the podcast. And I'm just, yeah, I'm so elated right now. So I'm in this space right now to talk about, just a minute. I have a notice up here from Facebook and it's annoying me. To talk about the energy field and basically your relationship to it. Now, everything in this space is absolutely my experience. It is just me relaying my feelings on this topic. And there's absolutely no scientific metric because at this time there is no scientific metric. But I'm going to explain to you my feelings and I'm going to explain to you what it feels like for me. Because when I explain my theories to other people, who are tuned into the energy field, every single time, 100% of the time, I get people coming back saying, oh my God, that is so how I feel. And I'm like, great, we're on the same page. So it's basically a lot of data coming in where we're all reporting on the same page. I'm just able to articulate exactly what it is. And everyone else is confirming that they're experiencing the same thing. So I'm going to relay my experience to you. And again, remember, we all live with movies in our minds. This is my movie. It is not me telling you that this is your movie. I don't do that shit. This is me telling you this is my experience. Let's compare data. Let's sit down and figure this shit out. And if it rings true to you, great, you're my people. If it doesn't ring true to you, you're free to watch and observe. So this is what it feels like. When earlier in a video today, I was explaining this massive conformist war, this perspective war between me and my parents. And my perspective war is a little different than everybody else's perspective war. Everybody goes through a perspective war. The perspective war is basically a combination of it is your identity. Your identity is made up of several parts. It is made up of your authority. It is made up of your intuition. It is made up of your literal identity, what you want, what you love, what you desire, what you dream. It is made up of your autonomy. Your autonomy is your ability to self-govern. It is your independence. And your identity is also made up of your individuality. So you have your authority, your intuition, your identity, your autonomy, your independence, and your individuality. Now, this all runs off of or is linked to your defense system, which operates on who you are, your name, and your voice, specifically your voice. All of that is linked into your identity. And it is run and operated and managed by your ego, your conscious awareness. Now, most people did not learn any of this shit. Most people did not get any training on this shit. As a result, your ego, conscious awareness, is ignorant, naive, completely oblivious to all of this going on. As a result, your ego is currently curled up in the corner of your ship, gnawing on its own feet, trying to figure out what's wrong as world and life and trauma bombards you, and you're going, what the fuck is wrong with me? That is normal. That's what everyone feels because we are not aware of our six-part mental system. Our six-part mental system comprises of our identity, intuition, fear system, subconscious mind, defense system, and our ego. And if you don't know about your six-part mental system and you don't know how to manage it, you're going to have a lot of problems. So when you sit down and you look at psychology and what happened to you and what the abuse is, this is what's happened to you. You came into the world with your identity and your authority. Your parents confiscated your authority because you were an infant. And of course, that's kind of what they do. They're supposed to be your keeper of your authority, and they are supposed to give it back to you. But parents have children 99% of the time as an emotional prosthetic. I don't know who I am, so I'm going to have a baby so I know who I am. And they end up using their children as an emotional prosthetic to project their own traumas and emotional instabilities onto the child, and that's a huge burden for any human being. But in order for you to cooperate as their emotional prosthetic, you can't have an identity because your identity gets in your parents' way of them using you as an emotional prosthetic. So there becomes a power trip. There becomes a perspective war where your parents are now having all these expectations on you, and you have your identity. And they are not compatible. They are incompatible. Your parents' expectations of you are not compatible with your identity. So there's a war. And 99% of the time, their expectations absolutely drown out, suffocate, destroy your identity, and their expectations rule all. When you get to college, you feel like you don't know who you are, you're lost, you're confused, you go into a major that they tell you should pursue, you don't really want it to anyway, but you also are more afraid of disobeying or disappointing your parents, so you pursue the life that they want for you, so you keep your conditional environment secure, so you always have a place to belong. This is called conditional love and conditional belonging. It is 100% you have a place to live, a place to belong, but only under these set requirements. Welcome to expectations. So you go about life being miserable until you finally reach your breaking point. When you get to your breaking point, it's you finally saying, I can't take it anymore, and you come out of all of that. It's like, and it is exactly like, your perspective has left their fishbowl of expectations. And now you are wandering through life going, who am I? What am I? And you don't know who or what you are because you have lived your entire life under the rule and the governing dictatorship of your abusive parents because you were used as their emotional prosthetic. Now, you go into healing, you go into trauma. The psychologists all focus their attention on all of your mental disorders, which have nothing whatsoever to do with your actual problem, and they ignore the fact that you were subjected to slavery. You were a slave to your parents' expectations. You were completely conformed under the guidance of obedience. You know who else is really obedient? Slaves. Slaves are really obedient. So you are basically an emotional slave to your parents' needs, requirements, expectations because you are nothing more than their emotional prosthetic. It destroys your identity. Enter the healing garden. We step in, we say, yeah, I believe in freedom and I believe in autonomy and authority and your free will. So I give that back to you. I teach you how to do all of that. Now, when I was a child, I fought it. I did not conform. There was a massive power struggle between me and my parents, and there was war. There was war. I ran away from home when I was 8 because there was war. And then I ran away again when I was 15 years old with the understanding that I was not going to return home until and unless they kept their conformity bullshit off of me. I got home. It was understood that I was the boss of me, and you don't tell me what to do. I was 15 when I established this understanding with my parents. I was really weird. That being said, I was totally isolated and abandoned, metaphorically speaking, by my parents because I made it clear to them that I was not going to be their emotional prosthetic. And I'm not, and I wasn't. But it cost me. It cost me a complete and total lack of their approval, which I never had to begin with. It cost me a complete and total, well, it basically saved me from any delusion of what the situation really was. And at that time, 15 years old, I started studying psychology and philosophy and sociology. So I picked up real fast to what was really happening. And in 9/11, 2001, when the towers fell, I was raped. And that really put me in a compromise. My brain really got fucked up at that point, and I lost it all. That is the only time in my life where this power struggle completely, I lost to it. And I was stuck in it for 15 years. So I spent the next 15 years trying to survive the insanity that was my life. And in 2015, I went into therapy. This is where you come in. This is where this particular video now comes in. I did what everybody else thought and said, I'm going to go ahead and dig into my past and get my healing done and fix myself. So I did. And I started to dig on the surface. And I started to notice shit. And I went, oh, look, there's more there. So I dug deeper. And I found more layers, more and more layers. So I kept digging deeper. I was waiting to get to that point where there was nothing unusual to feel. So I just kept digging and digging. And it never stopped. That got interesting. I kept digging. I dug so deep that I found the God self, which is really awesome. And this is where light work steps in. You think, oh, I'm just this person who was subjected to this perspective abuse by my parents because they had all these expectations and I refused to conform. Oh, well, that's all fixed now. And then I think I'm fine, but I'm not. There's more here. I dug down deep into this particular moment where I broke into a surface and I started to remembering shit that weren't my memories. A lot of people report this. A lot of people who reach this stage of healing report this, where they dig and they get beyond their own memories and then they find memories that don't belong to them and they keep digging because it doesn't feel right. It's like we have two levels of amnesia. There's the surface memories of this lifetime amnesia and the underneath emotions of amnesia where something doesn't feel right. So I dug, and the more I dug, the more I started to remember shit from way back and see it way in the future. That was really confusing and scary for about a year. And then I dug up more memories, and then I remembered shit. I am an oracle. I am a psychic. I have been this way my whole life. I talk about shit and I know shit that I'm not supposed to know. It scared the fuck out of my parents, so my parents beat the fuck out of me. My parents had other people beat the fuck out of me until they gave me brain damage. And I completely forgot what I was. I forgot that I was a psychic. I forgot that I was an oracle. I forgot my God self. I kept healing. And the more I healed not only my surface memory and this lifetime memory, but I ended up healing all of it because it didn't feel right. The reason why it didn't feel right was because when I say I'm tuned into the energy, I mean I am tuned into the energy. And I noticed that I had this vibrational frequency that is hooked up to me, flowing right through me. So if I'm not aligned to it, I can feel it. Energy and frequency are my first language. I have been speaking those languages since I was at least 2 years old. I was delayed in speaking because I spoke energy. So I'm from the energy and I reverberate with the energy. It's all of me. I get it. So that now what I'm healing, what I'm really repairing and what I'm really healing is my relationship with the energy. And that's where all these memories are coming from all of these different points of all the things that I'm seeing in the future and all the things that I'm seeing in the past. And they're all happening at the same time. It's really interesting. So that brings me to my theory. I really hate to call it a theory because it is such a solid fact in my brain that for me it's not a theory, it's realistic. I have a cognitive core with its processing center. And every time I run this by anybody, they're confirming, oh my God, that makes so much sense. So here it is. You have a cognitive core. This is where perspective comes from. It has 5 parts to it. The first part is your identity, what you love, where your joy comes from. The second part is your ethics, what you value based off of what you love. The third thing is your belief system. These are the beliefs that are formed from your ethics, your values, and from what you love. And then you have the naming. This is how you define yourself so you understand your coordinates, so you know who you are in this world. And all of those things, when combined, make up your perspective. When you have these 5 things and they are all yours and they are all aligned, you have a really nice running operative cognitive core. Whenever you get information that comes in as a fact, it goes through your belief system and it gets processed through this whole thing. It has to align with your ethics and with your identity. If it does not, things go bad. Your cognitive core, your subconscious mind, then creates something called an invasive perspective, where it creates an offshoot of a separate perspective. This is where mental illness comes from. I call this a behavioral defense, where you have now an invasive perspective inside of your cognitive core. And the subconscious mind says, well, I have to create a behavior. I have to act like A. So here's my first processing of the cognitive core, but I have this invasive perspective now that allows me to survive this dangerous situation. This is what our parents do to us. Our parents give us false information. They undefine what love really is. And because they take the definition of love from us and they redefine it for their own benefit, what ends up happening is we end up with this invasive perspective. So we have a really fucked up definition of what love actually looks like because we don't know what love looks like because our parents took that away from us. They corrupted our definition of love. They said, I love you, and then they beat the fuck out of you. I love you, and then they abuse you. I love you, and then they suppress you and cause you harm and all this damage. I love you, and then they neglect you. That's not love. And instinctively, we know that. Logically, within our subconscious minds, we know that. And that's where the cognitive dissonance occurs. It's an emotion that creates confusion and significant pain when there is illogic happening. We are so logical that when we are exposed to anything that's illogical, we don't understand it. And it fucks us up. It creates an invasive perspective to make room for the illogic of the cognitive dissonance so that we can continue to function, kind of, but barely, and only within that expectation. Take us away from the expectation of what our parents want, and suddenly we can't function anymore because we have the invasive perspective. So in triadic healing, we remove the invasive perspective by removing the false lies and the bullshit that they give us, and we restore the cognitive core to its full processing. It's really cool. Check out my triadic healing. Back to the point. The point is, where does love come from? That's my question. That's the one that's been bothering this morning. Where does love come from? So I dug and I dove deeper into where exactly it is love come from, and I noticed that love was directly linked to the energy field. Now, I'm writing and sitting in this really awesome vortex of the energy pool, and the things that I love are spontaneous joys that burst into me. And I realize that those things come from the energy field. The energy field gives me these vibrations, and spontaneously I go, oh, look at that. I love cats. Now, why do I love cats? I love cats because the energy field told me so. Because the energy field needed me to love cats. That way, I could go ABC, put everything I needed together to get a desired result, to get to be where I need to be at a particular location so that I would be looking at cats at a particular day so that I would meet a particular someone. That set off a massive chain reaction that I'm completely oblivious to, and the whole thing butterfly effects into its own thing. And only the energy field knows about all of this shit because only the energy field has all 8 billion threads attached to it. All of us interacting with each other, all of it knowing exactly which threads to pull at the same time. Pretty fucking cool, right? So what you love spontaneously in your true core self is precisely what you need to love, dictated by the energy pool, saying, we need you to love this in this combination so you'll end up here, that way X will occur. Really fucking cool. Now, the problem is when our parents come in with their expectations, they're trying to control. Anytime anyone tries to control, they're actually pulling away from the energy field. They're actually contradicting the energy field. Now that's going to fucking hurt. Now you're going to have cognitive dissonance because you are existing on a frequency that exists outside of the actual energy field. So you're going massive friction against this thing that's huge. It's going to hurt. And because our entire bodies, brains, and systems and spinal cords are 100% pure energy, it's really going to fucking hurt. And when you get to an enlarged hippocampus where you are sending off massive amounts of signals and you plug into this gigantic electromagnetic field, it's really going to hurt, which is why sixth perspectives are usually in so much pain. So when you finally get to that sixth perspective, when you finally get to the point where your hippocampus is enlarged enough that you feel the energy, I mean you really feel the energy, you have to align to the energy or it's going to rip you apart. So we talk about doing our trauma healing. We're talking about all of our cleansing. Translation, what we're really doing is removing all of the invasive perspective, invasive frequency from our entire systems and our subconscious mind so that we can finally align to the energy. Because you have a choice. You can either be aligned to the energy field or you can be aligned to the expectations of your parents. You can't have both. If you are aligned to the energy field, it stabilizes you because you are one with the hive. You are one with the energy field. That does not go away. Once you tune into that and you step into the vortex, you are part of the vortex. You become a grounding rod inside the energy field. But a grounding rod, as stable as you are within the field still moves. So you're doing one of these, which is fantastic. But if you are not grounded inside of it, you're going to be doing this, and this is the problem, and that fucking hurts. So ground yourself into the energy field. And in order to do that, you have to completely remove all garbage off of you, like I have done. Which is why I'm so tuned into the energy, is because you have to live 100% without anyone else's expectations inside of you. Now, if you are absolutely obsessed with a partner or somebody who you want to join you in this pool, then you're going to be more focused on aligning with that person rather than the energy pool. And you might be trying to do this, but it's absolutely, yeah, you know the point. It's going to continue to do this. And that's going to be the problem. So when you prioritize aligning yourself with the energy pool, you move with the energy pool. If you trust the energy pool, and this is what Abraham Hicks talks all the time about, when you put everything and trust the energy pool, it moves with you, and you've aligned. Everything moves where it's supposed to move. But the minute you try moving on your own agenda without being mindful of this energy field, it changes the game. It changes everything. So it's really that mindset of you start off in life following the expectations of your parents, and then that moves to societal expectations and belonging. And then you do get to your own, and then you make it your own agenda to basically project your own emotional insecurities onto other people, making other people your emotional prosthetic. And once you abandon that, and you finally prioritize nothing but the energy field, everything clicks. Everything clicks. Everything solidifies. Everything stabilizes. And then you realize, once you get to that point, how absolutely tuned into the energy everything is. That if everyone just got on the same page, holy shit, it would be awesome. You'd have everything you need right where you need it. You just need to plug in and prioritize the energy. So instead of focusing on your own agenda, focus on, I wish everyone would just heal. Because everyone healing is everyone rejecting the expectations, everyone no longer allowing others to use them as an emotional prosthetic, and everyone no longer insisting that they use other people as an emotional prosthetic. And instead they plug into the energy field, they stabilize themselves, they prioritize the energy field, and we all start moving as one person. It's really extraordinary. But, and this is the irony, in order to plug in, to think and move like an individual one person, we all have to actually be our own identity. I love that part. That's like my favorite part. This only works if we're all authentic. Ironically, if we're all identical, it's not authentic and it doesn't work. So we all have to literally be our own our identity enhanced authentic snowflakes, and then it comes together, we plug in, and we're okay. And the people you want to have in your life naturally fall into place beside you as long as you respect their autonomy. And you stop focusing on, oh my God, what if I lose this person? If you plug into the energy field, you're all going to the same destination. That's what you don't realize. We are all heading for the same destination. But we're so busy making sure we don't lose people, making sure that we have what we want, that we're not focused on the big picture, which is just go to the same destination and you'll find everyone there. It's like that moment in Walking Dead when they're all going to Terminus and Glenn and Maggie are trying to find each other. And instead of them looking for each other, they both see a sign, I'm going to Terminus. Hey, Glenn, this is Maggie, find me in Terminus. He changes his coordinates from find Maggie to we're going to Terminus, and they meet up and they get to Terminus, and that's where they rejoin. It's because they shift their expectations from finding each other to finding the same destination. Our destination all needs to be the same thing. Getting our asses to the energy pool. To do that, you must be authentically aligned. To do that, you must allow your partner or your loved ones to also be authentically aligned to their own autonomy. Stop trying to control the person next to you. Focus on the destination. Focus on fixing yourself and getting yourself to the energy pool. Once you do that, you line up with the energy pool, you step into it, and when you prioritize the preservation of the energy pool, everything's fine. You meet everybody you've ever wanted there. This is heaven, metaphorically speaking. I believe this truly is actually the heaven that we've all been looking for, is when we all step into the vortex, when we all enter the energy pool and it aligns, and then everybody we've ever loved is here already. But you have to align with the energy pool. You have to prioritize it. You cannot have your own agenda. Your own agenda needs to become uniting yourself with the energy pool and knowing, trusting that everybody else is going to find their way there just by being their own authentic self. So that's how that works. So back to love. When you are tuned into this massive field and that field has connection, I don't know if the field is sentient or not. That's something I'm trying to figure out still. And here's the thing, I think, and it feels like It feels like the energy field is actually just all 8 billion of us combined. It feels like it's not a separate entity from you or I. It feels like it is you and I combined in a whole. It feels like I'm reading your energy, but it feels like I'm reading all of your energy at the same time. And when all of our energy is combined, it's telling me that my place needs to be a cat lover, someone who loves ice cream, someone who loves gardens, somebody who loves to think in philosophy and psychology. And I'm just picking up all of this mass accumulation of information off of all of you guys, and I'm reading it, and it's being translated through feelings and emotions, and suddenly I'm having this massive impulse of, interesting, I need to drink water. Because I'm listening to all of you at the same time. And when your voices combine into me, it remerges on its side inside of me as a feeling telling me where I need to be. But I need to keep my subconscious mind quiet. I need to be tuned into this massive field listening to all of you. Now that is authenticity. That is authenticity. That is identity. That is your intuition. It is the reading of these 8 billion threads all plugged into you. That's what it feels like to me. So every time I make a decision, and I'm making a decision based completely off of my intuition and my identity, I'm sitting here going, okay, well, these are what I want, and this is what I need. So I'm going to now sit here and say, I want $2 million in sponsorship money, and I'm sending that out into all of you guys. Now, you are now taking my words. This is manifestation, by the way. You are taking all of my words. All 8 billion of you are now receiving my message, my want. You're actually being pulled by my desire, my feeling of what I need, what I want. It's tugging on all of you. And now everything's already in the works, and you guys are making all the shuffling around that you need to get everyone in position so that the right people are where they need to be at exactly the precise time to give me the $2 million that I need and want for my sponsorship. Boom, that's manifestation. But if you're wishy-washy, and if you're not tuned in to these 8 billion threads of the energy pool, it's not going to work. You have to be so fucking solid on trusting the energy pool, the 8 billion people that are out there all attached to your threads. And yeah, that's intuition. It's like this feeling that just filters through these 8 billion threads pumping into me, so that it all accumulates into a cocktail of my intuition feelings, my intuitiveness. And I'm going, you know what I feel like right now? Ice cream. That's what I want. And I want this, and I need to go here, and I want to go to Loveburn. I have to go to Loveburn this year. I have to. Because everything is telling me it's time, and it's right, and this is where you need to be. You need to go to Loveburn. All right, so I'm going to Loveburn, because that's the emotion that came from the 8 billion of you telling me it's time I go to Loveburn. Because something's going to happen at Loveburn. I'm going to meet people ABC. It's going to completely change everything that it needs to change for me to be in position to meet other people who are saying, I need somebody just like Anna. Boom. We are dancing with each other. That's all this is. It's a dance. So when you step into the garden and you talk about, I want to be a light worker, I know how to dance. I know how to read the energy. I know how to push and move and pull with it. I know how to tell you, do you understand what it is you're actually interacting with here? You are interacting with 8 billion people, and we're all dancing at exactly the same time, in exactly the same position. And we are just accumulating this emotional cocktail of feelings right into our gut, so we know what to do, when to do at all times. And here's the best part. Children are already tuned into this. Children already can feel it. They already can feel it. They already know, which is why children know shit, which is why children see shit. Children and animals, oh my God, do they know the shit. And it's our abuse as adults that have made us completely blind and unaware to this. We've been told what is normal. And because we've been put into this box of these are the expectations, learn the expectations. You are not supposed to fly. You are not supposed to be a changeling. And I'm sitting here going, well, I want to be a mermaid. I want to be a mermaid. I am a mermaid. And I'm going, well, wait a minute. If this is what I want, and if this is what I am convinced one day I'm going to get so good at manifestation that I will have a mermaid tail. I promise you. Like, this is my goal. I'm going to do this. And I'm going to be sitting there flopping around like a fish, because I am a fish. And I'm going to have people like, holy shit, how'd you do that? And I'm going, my God self. Because that's what we really are. We're gods who've been told that we're men. So if we're a bunch of gods with the power of creation, with manifestation, and we've been told that we're all men, so we're all acting like men, we're all aging like men because we think we're men, well, then we're manifesting that, and we are men, and we're all dying when we're really not dying. We're just recycling back into the energy pool and cycling back over through reincarnation. It's really fucking cool. I have a theory for that as well. And I'm going, why are we doing all of this? What if I'm a god? I'm a god. I'm a god. You're a god. We're all gods. We have forgotten that we are gods. So we have this massive God power inside of us, and the only limitation we have is we think we have limitations. So I'm a mermaid. I truly am a mermaid. And I'm looking at you going, why are we doing what everyone says we're supposed to be doing? Who is this supposed to be doing? Children can see it. Children are already there. Children know. And it's like, there's a story. It's one of my favorite stories. It's Irish mythology. The Tuatha De Danann were aliens, quote unquote. They literally, of all the Greek mythology, of all the mythologies in all the world, Irish mythology is my favorite. It's the most logical and it's beautiful. So this alien race, literally, this is the story, this alien race came down and they landed in Ireland, and at the time there was man and there was the Firbog. The Firbog were monsters, like monopeds. And monopods. They were one-legged, one-footed monsters, or they had one arm. They were malformed. They were the Firbog, and there was a war. And this war that took place was between the Tuatha and the Firbog and man. And when it was all done and said, the Tuatha were basically, they hid. They lost the war and they ran from the Firbog, and they went underground. That's what a fairy ring is. That's what a fairy ring is. It's in Ireland when the magic of the Tuatha basically seeps out of the ground. And that is a doorway to Under-Earth, doorway to the ethereal realm where the Fae live. The Fae, fairies, pixies, sprites are the Tuatha. And if you go back to the original, prior to the Christianization of the myth, they were Tolkien's elves. They were Tolkien's, very similar to Tolkien's elves. Tolkien did his own translation with them and went his own direction. But if you look at the original elves, they were magnificent Fae creatures, godlike. And they come from a different planet. And they landed in Ireland. If there is still magic in this world, it is in Ireland. And Ireland has a really interesting history to it if you look at it. I mean, really fucking interesting history. And when you look at the stories of the Tuatha, they match up really well. For instance, when the Christianization happened, the Christians went in and imperialized and destroyed everything. They wiped everything out, except Ireland, because of St. Patrick. St. Patrick went in and he preserved them in the 9th century. As they were writing all of the Tuatha De Danann stories and all of the Irish myth, St. Patrick went in to preserve them and said, I'm going to protect you from Christianity. So he went in, and instead of saying you have to and then destroying their religion, he preserved their religion, told them, yeah, here's Christianity also, and they merged it. And when he wrote back to Rome, oh yeah, everyone over here is a Christian now, he lied to protect Ireland. So the stories of the Tuatha lasted while every other religion got wiped out. And it lasted, and it's still there to this day. They still call upon the Celtic gods. It's extraordinary. They still refer to it. That's why they're so superstitious. It's because, yeah, the Celts are very superstitious. And it's because they have this massive culture, this ancient 4,000, 6,000-year-old myth still embedded into their culture. It's so funny because when you read their mythology, suddenly Mary and Jesus is there. It's hilarious because St. Patrick's merged them instead of completely imperializing them. And that's when they started to create, and it was beautiful because they created something called the bards. And the bards were oral historians. I'm an oral historian. An oral historian is not a singer-songwriter. An oral historian was a historian who used oral tradition to pass on a mastery of information. And they had a master of at least 5 different topics. Those topics included music, song, theater, dance, performance, history, philosophy, and something of a mastery. Mine is psychology. So you have to have a mastery of all of these 4 things, the philosophy, art, theater, song, storytelling, and, or public speaking also, and one other mastery. In most cases, it was history. In other cases, it's comedy. In my case, it's psychology. So then when you present your story in an oral story and form, you actually traveled like a public speaker, going from stage to stage. You performed for kings. These were ranks of scholars, and this was highly valuable in their society. Storytelling was not a barred entertainment thing. That's bullshit. It was a scholar passing on information through oral story, massive amounts of information, extraordinary amounts. They were highly valuable. They were very, very revered. The greatest of these were called fili. Fili were oracles, soothsayers, seers. Fili. Absolutely extraordinary. I absolutely love the history of Ireland. And by the time they got to the 11th century, they were writing down everything in documentation. That's all the monks did, is they preserved everything via illuminated scripts. That is what the Book of the Kells is, and that's just one of thousands. In the 1700s, the English went in, imperialized finally, and destroyed almost all of the written work. 6,000 years of oral story, culture, tradition, mythology, written books, illuminated scripts destroyed. They took the Book of the Kells, was a few of them that managed to get out and escape. The Book of the Kells made it over to King Solomon's temple in the Middle East, where it was preserved and saved for quite a while before it was brought back to Ireland. It is an extraordinary culture. Nothing in the world is like Ireland. It's almost as if it's the first religion, the right answer and the core of our history. As if they were the ones, these aliens, the Tuatha, who did come down, who did create the pyramids that we're going, wow, look at that. And here's the thing, Danan's name is Danu, as in the Danube River. Her name, Danan, is passed on as the mother goddess in so many different cultures. She pops up everywhere. Danan, Danu, Denmark. The list goes on. If you look at her name, she's in every culture. Every culture, likewise, tells the story of what took place in Ireland in some various form or another. My favorite is when you look at Norse mythology. Oh my God, Norse mythology is like this beautiful retelling of everything that took place in Ireland and the similarities. For instance, in Norse mythology, they talk about the Aesir and the Vanir War. And their Shay is, I just crossed into Old Norse language. Shay is the magic that Old Norse use in the Sami culture. Sami is the Old Norse native Norwegian culture, very similar to Native American. And they talk about old nature, the nature. And the nature has a magic called the Seidh. And the Seidh is related to the she, as in a banshee, a woman of the Shay. The woman of the Shay, banshee, now you get banshee. Wailing like a banshee. That's a woman of the Shay. The Shay is the magic. So there's a lot of similarities if you look at Old Norse myth and if you look at the Irish myth, how the words are actually overlapped and they translate almost identical to each other. Extraordinary. For instance, Freya is the first witch. She's the one who gave birth to what would eventually become Wiccan. And a lot of the culture that we have, a lot of everything we have today for Wiccan comes from Freya in Old Norse. But if you translate Freya down, she actually has a lot of parallels to Danan herself. You see how it's all coming back to Danan, the Tuatha. And according to those earliest of stories, the Tuatha Danan were an alien race who invaded Ireland. They were aliens. So when we're all sitting here going, I don't understand how Stonehenge exists. I don't understand how all of these things, aliens built it. Yes, and the aliens are called the Tuatha Danann. And it's the only culture that survived the Christian imperialization that occurred. I don't believe that's ironic. I believe it's the way it's supposed to be. So there's a lot of parallels, a lot of things happening with Ireland. And I will say it again. If there is still magic in the world, it is in Ireland. So that all being said, when you're tuned into the nature, when you're tuned into, when you're tuned into the nature and when you're tuned into the energy field, it just, everything aligns and everything just hooks up to you. And suddenly you have this massive understanding of how everything just aligns perfectly to you. It's extraordinary. It's absolutely extraordinary. So every time you get this surge of love or impulse or desire or need. Now, impulse, I need to clarify, impulse actually comes from the fear system, which is part of borderline personality disorder. Impulse is different than whim. Whimsical is different than impulse. I needed to clarify that. So when you have something that just comes and erupts from what you love and what you want and what you desire, I believe that that comes from the energy pool. And I believe that it's coming from the wishes and dreams of the 8 other billion people out there. Likewise, you have your wishes and your dreams and you speak them and you send them out through into the energy pool. And what you're really doing is pulling on those 8 billion threads, shuffling and moving everybody accordingly to your own wishes. So I feel like we're just exchanging our wishes back and forth from me to the 8 billion that's there, from you to your 8 billion, and we're all dancing and shifting accordingly around each other. Now, what if we all wished for world peace at the same time? What if? And I believe we can. And that's what I'm doing. In June of 2024, I will be putting together a World Peace Manifestation Day, and that's what we're going to be doing, is manifesting world peace. Absolutely. If you love shit like this, like, subscribe, follow, share this with anyone you think would be interested in it. Comment below, let me know what part of the show resonated with you. This is going to be uploaded into my podcast, Lightworkers. I have Shifting Perspectives, and that's where I put that. Probably over in Subconscious Dialogues is where I'll put it. But it will be available on my podcast. All of my videos are. And take a look at my Linktree account. It connects you to Triadic Healing, which will absolutely cleanse, purify, cut out all of those expectations off of you so that you can revive your authentic self, so you can actually tune into the energy pool. Thank you so much, and may the kindest of words always find you.